Hello everybody, welcome back to Its Current Year for another Ent Ladder battle replay today. I'm playing up against old pal CryIsFree. This was from a recent best of three we had on the Ent Ladder. I believe it was game 2. It was Cry's first pick. He's gone with the Skaven, one of his main factions, and I have counterpicked with Vampire Counts. Formerly a faction that I played reasonably often, but yeah, for the last sort of 6 months or so, they've sort of fallen out of my regular rotation. So we'll go through the armies pretty quickly. The Skaven here in a little bit of a tight formation, bit of a box. So Skaven slaves up the front, just the regular non-spear version. In the back we have, I believe, clan rats, spears, and just regular clan rats. So bringing up the rear with some slightly higher tier troops, although only very slightly from slaves. 3 units of Poison Wind Globadiers, great for killing just about anything. Obviously, the damage over time effect is really nice, and they're just very cheap. 550 unit. They have good armor, so they're not that really protection from missiles is relevant in this matchup, but potentially you can get a lot of value in a very short amount of time. A couple of units of Rat Ogres for a bit of mass here and a bit of punching power. We've gone double Hell Pit on Cry here, so that's a nasty little sort of single entity box here. Up the front we've got a assassin and a chieftain up on a bone breaker. Looks like the assassin has taken rival hide talisman as well as assassin's trophy, so some debuffing potential here on various targets. And the chieftain has got obviously his guardian aura, which is the moment is taking effect on the assassin, but also the shield of distraction for the melee attack debuff, and obviously he is actually immune to psychology up on the Molder Monster, which is quite relevant in this matchup. Cry's Lord is the Grey Sierra Plague, who looks like he has come in with obviously all his Bell passives, the Unholy Clamour and Wall of Unholy Sound, but has also got the Dreaded 13th for the Storm Vermin Halberd summons, as well as just regular Vermintide and the Arcane Conduit. So obviously Dreaded 13th can do some damage, but also summons a unit of halberds, which can be quite a pain to deal with. So for the vampires, zombies up the front, behind them a couple of units of skeleton spears and a couple of units of the grave guard with shields, another skeleton spear in the back. On the flanks I do have some units of fellbats and some regular black knights, as you can see here, just for whipping up around the flanks. Fellbats for pressuring missile piece, but fellbats also just for chasing things off that route and making sure they can't return to the fray. Things like weapons teams, in this case Poison Wind Globes. I've got a White King who has taken just the Scab Scrath, so good for clearing out infantry, and also can just grind through an basically insurmountable or innumerable amount of little rats. I've got double Vargul for some hitting power. They're pretty self-sufficient as well with their regen, and we also do have the Mortis Engine coming in with the Mortis Engine effect and also the passive healing. My Lord is Heinrich Kemmler, and I like him in this matchup because the Krell summon can be handy, but also the fact that he is himself a passive healing engine with the Chaos Tombblade. There's a lot of passive healing in this list, but I have also taken Invocation of Nahek, Gaze of Nagash, and Raise Dead, and obviously we have the Krell summon, along with the Cloak of Mist and Shadows, that helps him sort of stick in combat when he needs to. So the lines are going to meet. It's going to be zombies up against slaves. Zombies will win that, basically through morale more than anything, but this is a matchup where both factions are kind of incentivized to sort of blob up around. Both factions can take Mortis Engines. There's no Mortis Engine here for the Skaven in the form of the Plague Furnace or potentially the Warlock Engineer, but yeah, for that reason, obviously, as I said at the start as well, there's a lot of healing auras stacked up here, so everything's going to pretty much happen, as you can see, around this little frontage here. The Grey Seer has popped his Unholy Clamour to keep some troops in the fight. The Graveguard are taking some pretty good volleys here from the Poison Wind, so I'm just trying to punch through as quick as I can. We saw the Scab Scrath going down. Unfortunately, do want to try and pressure the Poison Wind Globadiers into a retreat before I have the Mortis Engine potentially get focused down, but we are seeing the bats drop in now and push them back. Skeleton Spears purposely staying out just to form a little second wall, and I don't want to get too brave with Heinrich Kemmler at the moment because the chieftain and potentially that assassin, which was sniffing around, could get pretty nasty if they got onto him. The rival hide talisman obviously affecting a large amount of my force here. Krell has been summoned, and he's going to do a bit of wailing away on this on this chieftain. He's also got potentially the Grey Seer up on the bell to hit here. But I did see the clan rats here without the spears as a potential target for my Black Knights, so I did try and get them in, but I'm probably overstaying my welcome here with my bats, and they are crumbling, which is bad for me because if I can get some routes on them, I want them to come down and potentially chase them off. So a bit of a mistake by me. My Black Knights are getting caught up a little bit, but they are being microed around now to try and get these Poison Wing Globadiers. And this is what I'm talking about. It's just an absolute mosh pit in here. Both of the forces will just try and get as much summons as they can, just to buff out their single entities, as we see a zombie summon coming down here. Krell is fighting the assassin, which is probably not where he wants to be, particularly with a Hell Pit jumping around here, but I have activated the Cloak of Misty Shadows, which is nice. It does give him some physical resistance. Obviously, Hell Pits and Assassins do not have magical attacks, so actually there's a real sort of lack of magical attacks in this force, besides, I think the Plague, the Plague Wind do have magic attacks on their missile damage. So, as you can see, my Vargulfs have been wailing away, but one of them is getting really low, but the sort of overlapping healing effects is keeping my single entities pretty healthy here. And as you can see, the White King is healing quite quickly. Kemmler can heal himself up. There's an Assassin's Trophy going down on him, but it's not really affecting him too badly at the moment because he is away from any real danger. And Krell is sitting in the front lines here. We'll see if we can get our mouse on Krell and see if we can get sort of what kind of value he's looking at here. So see if we can. Nah, I don't know if we're going to be able to get him up. I don't know if we're going to be able to find his unit card. Here we go. So he's got 3 kills, but 500 damage is not damage value is not to be laughed at. The chieftain has rallied, but his Guardian Aura is not affecting the assassin here or the Grey Seer, and my Black Knights are just on cleanup duty in the back here, making sure the Poison Wind Mortars or Globadiers can't rally. The infantry here for the Skaven really can't stand up to the amount of terror that's in here, and just the Mortis Engine drain in both units of these things here are going to terrify them pretty damn quick. So back to the blob, the big blob fight here. I've got some skeleton spears fighting away in here with their anti-large. I've got some zombies. The White King is just wailing away, and nothing here is really good at killing him. He sort of goes a little bit unnoticed with the Hell Pits probably making a beeline for the Vargulfs. The Vargulfs, though, with their regen, the Mortis Engine, and potentially Krell when he comes into fight, are hitting their healing cap pretty quickly. And I think I only did actually put down, this one's actually already hit its healing cap because it has had an Invocation of Nehek. But the lack of invocations that have been needed this game, because of all the healing effects, have allowed me to concentrate on summons and be microing Krell around to give his buffs where he needs them. But as we see a zombie summon coming down here, as well as the final Scab's Growth from the White King, trying to just rout off as much as I can and make sure those Poison Wind Globes can't support the fight. So I believe a Storm Vermin summon was recently sort of went into crumbling, but my Mortis Engine here is getting hunted by this Hell Pit, and I need to micro it out because I want to keep the passive drain here, even though it doesn't affect single entities quite as much as it does, say, infantry or anything like that. Still want to keep it alive, and it has started crumbling and has had to have an invocation popped in on it by me just to keep it stabilizing. Black Knights continuing just to stop things from being able to come back. I don't want the Skaven single entities fighting on top of the infantry. I want to try and keep them out as much as I can so I can just give good, reliable attack orders. As we see a Scorch coming down here, I did see it with the zombies. And I did manage to pull away from it. Very agile zombies. And we are going to get them onto the Poison Wind Globadiers, who even with the Unholy Clamour have lost their leadership and they will flee from the battlefield. So likewise with the Mortis Engine, trying to stay on the periphery, trying to just terror out or just drain as much as I can and naturally break as much of this stuff as I can to keep it from the fight. The Chieftain once again has been terrified. I thought Chieftains were immune to psychology. That's interesting. So he's out of the fight now. He's taken off, and this Vargulf still pretty healthy, especially considering this Hell Pit is nearly on its last legs. But we do have a unit of Rat Ogres, and the Hell Pit here is laying some good hits on my Vargulf, which is very disappointing for me because this Hell Pit was nearly dead, and I had about a 2/3 healthy Vargulf. So Kemmler here does manage to get a zombie summon up on to buff out these Rat Ogres while the White Kings go away, wail away on them. But the Hell Pit did get its burst healing there, so it's back up to about 3,000 HP, and this Vargulf is just getting absolutely worked by everything. It's a pretty good damage dealer, so it's a good targeting decision there by Cry. But we just see here the Mortis Engine I'm just keeping out here for the late game. I don't really need it here. You know, all this summoned infantry is fighting on top of my summoned infantry. Everything here is at its heal cap. Kemmler's heal capped himself. This Vargulf is heal capped and about to die. The Mortis Engine itself has heal capped and is going to come back into the fight now. But it was just circling around the fight here, just keeping things away. But this Vargulf, not long for the world. It may just crumble out of existence if its leadership gets any worse. Kemmler has stepped up to try and take the heat off the Vargulf and get some hits in. Does turn its back, and we are able to get a couple of hits with the Vargulf before it goes down. But the White King here is super healthy and really can put a bit of hurt on the clan rats to keep them off my single entities. The Mortis Engine is on probably its last legs. It is starting to get close to crumbling, and it is at its heal cap. And now that the Rat Ogres have come back in, things are starting to look maybe a little bit dicey for me. You know, Kemmler is, I mean, for a caster lord, a pretty good combatant. 43, 45, 340 isn't too bad, but with the Cloak of Mist and Shadows going down, 60% physical resistance, I see some magic damage out here that can potentially burst him down, and I want to get it off the field pretty damn quick. Particularly while he's got his Cloak of Mist and Shadows active as well. Didn't want the poison wind shooting into that and sort of negating that. Unfortunately, some big bodies down here. 2 Hell Pit Abominations. There's the remainder of the Mortis Engine. Both my Vargulfs are dead, but we do manage to shatter off the Poison Wind Globadiers, and this is a summon that will be degenning fairly soon. It was actually the Skaven Slave summon that does pour out of the Hell Pit once it dies. But this is just basically a battle of RNG now. I've got 2 single entities, both of which are heal capped. The White King doesn't really excel at killing large things, but with how damaged it is, and I'm hoping at this stage there's nothing like a Dreaded 13th left. You know, another Skaven summon might be a pain in the ass, but there's really nothing else coming back for the Skaven at this stage. Everything has shattered, and it is the Grey Seer with the Arcane Conduit going down. Really trying to probably pump out one last summon, which I'm not sure Cry gets here. But with the 2 single entities going at it, the leadership's starting to fail as a few more hits are laid by the White King and Kemmler. The Grey Seer does break, and that is a win for the Vampire count. So this was game. Pretty sure this was game 2. Cry did win game 1 of this series. It did go to 3 games. I do remember that. So I think overall this is a good matchup for the Vampire counts. Slightly Vampire counts favoured. But to be perfectly honest, it is a matchup that I really dislike playing, and we pretty much saw the reason for it here. It gets very blobby. Basically, the whole game, the whole game devolves into just a big mosh pit where all the single entities come together, and you try and basically get both your Mortis Engines. There's actually no Mortis Engine here from Cry, but potentially you could see a Furnace with some summons, and then I've seen Deathmaster Snitch work quite well in this type of build alongside the double Hell Pit, but the Vampire Council do it as well. Mortis Engine with passive healing and obviously the drain. A couple of single entities. Usually, Vargulfs are good here. I have seen Terrorgeists work, but I don't actually think they're as good as Vargulfs in this matchup. Usually a White King, there's enough terror here, so the White King is, I guess, a better pick than the Banshee, generally speaking, because Scabscrath is nice to just clear off as much infantry as you can. And then Lord Choice here for the Vampire counts is fairly open. I actually just like Heinrich Kemmler as a Lord, generally. And then basically with your Bats, which I didn't micro very well, to be honest. I left them in the fight too long and they got crumbled out. Try and get the range or the burst damage from the Poison Wind Globadiers, which all did still get reasonable value, but you probably take that, to be honest. Sometimes they can get upwards of like 1,500, and for a 550 cost unit, that's pretty nice. But yeah, the Hell Pits, one of them did well, one not so much. I think the similar story for my Vargulfs. Now, they're both doing pretty well. This one's got its cost back, I believe, and this one's punched a little bit above its weight. But just the passive drain of the Mortis engine was really big. It's hit a silver chevron there. The Black Knights were really big. Not a lot of damage value, but a lot of that was just keeping things like the Clan Rats infantry from coming back to the fight. And just basically mucking up my attack orders and giving just bodies for, I guess, the Hell Pits to cycle charge through, the Chieftain potentially to cycle charge through. He's actually done pretty well for himself. Assassins are pretty cheap, so you take that. But the Grey Seer is a good, just a good generalist lord pick for most matchups for Skaven. The Bell obviously gives you a good sort of focal point, and with the Unholy Clamour, being able to buff, you know, leadership in a map wide rather than just a small sort of radius. I guess it's good because the Skaven leadership can sort of falter here. So yeah, that was a good, I guess, a close game. I wouldn't necessarily say, you know, close game's not always a good game. It doesn't make for great watching. And as I said, it's part of the reason why I just sort of hate this matchup so much. As a Vampire Counts player, it's nice in a competitive situation because some Skaven players, such as CryIsFree here, will leave them open, and I think they are a good counter pick. But it just never makes for really that fun of a game. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I've sort of, I think, gravitated away from the Vampire Counts. I love them as a faction, but a lot of their matchups do sort of focus around, you know, layering healing effects, which we did hit quite well. But yeah, sort of playing that sort of pit fight style, and you can do it with a Terrorgeist and with the Lord on a Dragon or the Strigoi Lord and be a little bit more mobile with it. And Vargulfs can be mobile as well. They have 80 speed, so they're, you know, potentially well, they are a cycle charging unit, to be honest. Their weapon strength is fairly mediocre for a monster, for a 1400 point monster, but yeah, very fast and very sort of self-sufficient with their regen and their speed to get out of combat. So yeah, I like them as a faction, but yeah, playing this style of game isn't really my cup of tea, and isn't always the most enjoyable. But it was a good game nonetheless, so thank you guys for checking it out, and thanks as always for Cry for being a good opponent and just a good dude in general. So yeah, thanks for checking it out, and until the next time, take care.